Rick West, and I am running for mayor's position in this great city of Chesapeake.
And it would be your second full term, right?
Second full term, yes.
And but it would be your third time running for mayor. Why do you decide to run for a second full term?
Well, I basically just want to see our city continue to do and grow the way it's growing. I love the fact that we are so strong with our school system, we're so strong with public safety, and we are becoming one of the great economic powerhouses in the region. And I think we need that economic advantage to keep our taxes low and to keep providing services for our citizens. So that's what we've been doing, and I want to just keep that going.
What would you say is your proudest accomplishment in your time as mayor?
Well, I think my proudest accomplishment is right here at Summit Point in Greenboro. I think that we, back in, I think it was 14, made a commitment with Dollar Tree for them to stay here, and then they finally decided to create this town center, and it's a jewel for our city. And I think the fact that we have been declared best run city in the Commonwealth and 14th best place to live. So I think they're great accomplishments that we can all take credit for.
What do you want to accomplish in your next 4 years?
Well, first of all, I would love to see us continue doing the great things that we've been doing. I would also love to see a mega site be completed down on 17 or 4,000 acres, referred to as the Williams Farm or Coastal Commerce Park. Has great potential for our city and our region and our state in terms of economic benefits. I feel like that if we could get that rolling, we could guarantee our taxes will be low, and that we would be able to add even more amenities to our city.
But that brings me into development. I mean, that area is a rural area. Mm-hmm. You know, it's no secret neighboring Virginia Beach has the green line sort of thing. Is that something? How are you going to manage? What's your growth management philosophy?
Well, and that is part of our growth management philosophy, is to encourage growth along the major transportation corridors. And 17 is certainly a major transportation corridor. We're seeking funds from the state to run water and sewer, but that infrastructure just down 17, so it would not go further into our rural areas that we are determined to protect.
So you would say if there's not a major thoroughfare through a rural area under your leadership, people shouldn't be concerned?
Well, people should always be concerned about growth, but it is my intent to always protect that rural area, other than where there is a major transportation corridor, for sure.
The issue of when it comes to, there was a loophole having to do with development in homes. Explain, has that been corrected?
It finally has. I became aware of that loophole maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
And just to explain, it allowed a person to subdivide a property without council approval, correct?
Exactly. Someone had complained about it, I believe, in an email or something. I can't remember how I found out. So I rode down on Sanderson Road. I was shocked to see the number of houses that were allowed to be built without ever going through any type of approval process. And so fought, tried to get our council at that time to look at this issue. And it was not an easy solution, because if you are too restrictive, you will infringe upon farmers' rights, but if you're not restrictive enough, you allow developers to come down there and make havoc with the house building. And so I just couldn't get my former council to look at that issue and to take a stance. Fortunately, after the last election, 2 years ago, we had a council that said, yeah, we really do need to take a look at it. And I have to take my hat off to our planning department. They met with all the stakeholders, farmers, residents, development, and they came up with a recommendation. And it wasn't perfect, but it was able to stop what they were doing down there, and I'm pretty happy with it.
And so now what must happen if someone wants to build on farmland?
Well, they're not going to be able to, other than to build like what it was intended to for their family members.
Okay. and if it's anything else, it has to come to council.
Absolutely.
Okay. Chesapeake's the only local city with a local referendum, and it has to do with recycling, something that we've talked about before. You were on the losing end, so to speak, of votes to continue recycling. Now this referendum, I know you passed it, but I think you talked about how you had some unease. Just explain what people are going to be voting for, and what will you do if this is approved?
Okay, so what people will be voting for is to pay a fee up to $10 a month to bring back curbside recycling. And this is a conversation, I do a lot of door knocking these days, and it's a conversation I have often, so I'm very familiar with it. When we were discussing this during the last budget cycle, it made sense, quite honestly, to continue curbside recycling. Whether it was the best way to recycle or not was not determined, but it was something that people wanted. And so 3 times it came up, and I supported it because I knew that's what our citizens wanted. So now that we have not had curbside recycling, we're dropping off at bins, it's not an ideal thing to do, but looking in the future, if you look at the ability to remove or to prevent waste going to the landfill, single bin recycling is the way to go. The question is, how expensive is it going to be? And secondly, how quickly can they do it? I think SIPSA provided a great workshop to our council and talked about the cost. It seems reasonable. I have visited, many of our council members and staff members have visited a facility in Berkeley, South Carolina, and we've read about what's happening in California, making it work. And so we have a lot of confidence that that is the way of the future.
So if the referendum is approved,
yes,
will you vote to implement a fee for those who want?
That will depend on 3 things. Number one, how strong is the support? If it's 50-50 or if it's 75, 25, that would be a big factor for me. Secondly, what would be the cost to install the curbside? And thirdly, how long will it take for this new single bin facility to be built and operational? So if it takes a year and a half or year to re-implement curbside, and they're going to be able to build it in 20 months, it wouldn't make much sense to implement curbside for such a short period of time. And also, again, the cost to that. We felt like that we were paying more than other cities when we had it before, and it was coming out of general fund. So we ended up not being able to, we got behind on our pavement, road pavement and other things because we had to take that money out of general funds.
I want to talk a little bit politics, of course, that's always fun. Lately, people have said that it's sometimes unrecognizable what's going on with Chesapeake. I mean, there was votes for the city attorney to look into things. You're on TV right now saying that you're being faced with political attacks. What's going on with the dynamic in our city?
Well, I can tell you what's going on. I can't tell you why. There's just so many different personal attacks that we've never seen in our city. We've always been able to agree to disagree. Our city was built by strong Democrats and strong Republicans, and so that whole partisan thing really does get in the way, and it causes people to do things they wouldn't normally do. But yeah, I'm very disappointed to see that our city is going, we always thought that we were immune to this kind of politics, but it's here and unfortunately probably here to stay.
I mean, some critics have said that you helped contribute to that. You voted for the city attorney to look into past actions of the former city attorney in communication with council members. Is that a fair criticism?
I don't think that is negative. I think we're just trying to get information. So an allegation was made and about me, and so why would we not want to look at that with the other council members as well if that was what was going on?
Speaking of the allegation made for you, there's a PAC now registered federally that is sending out literature saying that you should know better after your time on council to go and ask the city attorney to do something for what ended up being your brother-in-law, correct? Or stepbrother?
Stepbrother. Mhm.
Stepbrother. You know, they posted another council member posted a letter that shows the assistant for the city attorney saying that you said, "Can you look into the situation in Georgia?" Was that appropriate?
So it would be appropriate for me to ask them to do something. And that's not what I asked our city attorney. I asked his opinion. I wanted to know what Chesapeake was doing in regards to restricting people's ability to do septic systems, so that I could advise my stepbrother as to what we were doing, and he could use his legal counsel to use the same argument if it applied. That's all I needed. That's all I wanted. And unfortunately, our attorney chose to do something about it. To my surprise, he made a couple phone calls, and the issue was resolved. Again, not by my direction. So yeah, it would be wrong for me to ask him to do something, but to ask an opinion, I don't see that as being wrong.
So was that letter that from the member of the city attorney's office that said the mayor came and asked someone to look into this, the situation in Georgia, not Chesapeake, it didn't say Chesapeake, but they didn't want you to, you said, don't take too much time, but I want you to look into this. It didn't say Chesapeake, the letter.
Right, but you wouldn't talk to your attorney for Chesapeake unless we were talking about Chesapeake? So, I mean...
So you never intended, is what you're telling me. So that, are you saying that letter from the city attorney staff member did not communicate your intentions?
Correct.
So what were your true intentions in that conversation with the city attorney's assistant?
My conversation with the city attorney was I explained to him what the situation was in Georgia, and I wanted to know what would be our stance in a situation like that, and how could where would we have gone with that, and what is our policy?
Did you ever follow up with that assistant saying, "Hey, this is not my intention"?
It didn't really, I didn't think about it at the time. It didn't seem like an issue. I didn't know that. I was very surprised to see that phone calls had been made, and I'll be honest with you, I was happy that my stepbrother got what he wanted, but I didn't think at the time that it was inappropriate. But now I look back, I see absolutely was.
So would you have done the same thing again if your stepbrother emailed you?
I would have been more clear as to what I was trying to get. So yeah, no, I would not have done it the way I did it.
Do you believe it's wrong for a city attorney or any staff member to work on anything for a private, outside family matter?
Oh yeah, for sure, yes.
Should city council adopt an ethics policy, do you think?
I think we're working on a code of ethics right now. We're looking at what other cities are doing. So yeah, I have no problem with that. I think it's probably a good idea. The only problem with code of ethics is the same as censorship. There's really no consequences. We haven't adopted or don't have the authority to adopt. I'm not sure which, but there are no consequences. If someone breaks a code of ethics, what are you going to do? I would rather see a code of ethics with consequences, but having a code of ethics, I guess, is better than not.
There was also an allegation that made by your opponent that members of the Republican Party call before each vote and tell council members how to vote.
Yeah, that is just absolutely false. Just doesn't happen.
Where do you believe that allegation comes from?
I think it's someone who's disgruntled and they're just trying to make things up to get even.
Okay. Where do you think is our path forward to try to, if you're elected to another term as mayor, how do you think there's any way you can try to coalesce the sides to stop some of these attacks? I know, and I'm not sure your reasonings, but I know you removed yourself from the whole Councilman Kerry lawsuit situation.
Yeah, being his opponent, I just didn't think it was appropriate for me to make a judgment one way or the other as to whether he should be serving or not. Quite honestly, and I told him when he asked me, I told him I thought he should. It's probably in his best interest, but he votes like me 98% of the time, so really, why would I want him to leave? So I had, I guess, mixed feelings about that. Certainly wasn't looking for a result one way or the other.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, only the fact that, I've been the same here. I've raised a family here. I've grew up here in Chesapeake and had a career here in education. And I'm the same guy I was then, and I'm hoping that the voters will be willing to trust me to do 4 years.